Welcome to Access Church. We're stoked you're with us. Before we get into the teaching today, grab your Bible, your note sheet, and maybe your favorite beverage, and be ready to receive all that God has for you today.
Hey, welcome to Access Church. Glad that you're joining us today. Before we kind of get into things and what we'll be doing, I want to give you a heads up on some things happening. Right now, we're in a season of new. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be rolling out a new church website, a new church database, a new church app that will be user-friendly. You can listen to sermons on it, you can give through it, all kinds of good things. You can actually take notes on it. Those of you that don't like paper, like this guy right here, you can take sermon notes, and when we start with connection groups again, you can just bring that with you. And then we also have a new giving platform that we're going to be rolling out too. So all that's going to be in the next few weeks. We'll walk you through it, but we just want to let you know that there's a lot of new things happening. Also, we want to let you know that we're starting to narrow down kind of where our new home's going to be. We have a few options we're looking at, and we'll be letting you know exactly where we're going to be landing as a church soon. But what we want to do is get some feedback from you. So here's what we need. We kind of need to know the engagement. We need to know at what level we want to engage as we look at planning live services. So here's what you can do. On our website, go to www.gotoaccesschurch.com. We would like everyone to do it this week. So in the next 5 or 6 days, make it a priority, one person per family. And we just have a questionnaire. It'll take literally 3 or 4 minutes. And that'll help us to kind of figure out how many people will be coming, what kind of precautionary measures we need to take, process and procedures. So please go to our website, fill out, it's on the front page there. You'll see it there. And if you could fill out that feedback form, we'd really appreciate it. And that'll help us as we're trying to plan for this next season coming up for us. For now, over the next 2 weeks, here's what we got going on is we want to have an honest and hopeful conversation with everything going on in our culture, with everything going on in society. This whole year, really, there's been so much instability. A lot of us are unsettled. It brings about a lot of emotion. And I want to walk us through as a church as far as how to have healthy discussions. Kind of what I talked about last week. How do you learn to gain perspective? And so today and next week, we invited 4 special people, and we joined together to kind of model to our church what does it mean to seek honest conversations, to ask difficult questions, to hear from different perspectives. And so that's what we've done. And so we're not going to have any worship today or next week. We didn't feel like it kind of fit the service because it's more of a discussion than a sermon, but we're hoping that when you get done listening, you kind of contemplate a little bit. We're hoping that it spurs conversation in your own heart, conversations within your family. Maybe some of us as parents, we need to have some conversations with our kids, and then conversations in our community. So we hope that you personally enjoy this. We hope that it's something that you can share with other family members and friends, that it might help them. But our goal is we truly believe that God makes the church and establishes the church for moments like this. And this is when the church will and should shine brightly for Jesus. Enjoy. Welcome, Access Church, and anyone else that doesn't go to Access but is listening to this. We're excited that you're with us today. Today is about engaging in conversation that spurs on introspection that we all need to do, a discussion that we all need to have, an action that we all need to take. Our goal is to create discussions before we start making decisions, is to have unity within diversity that God allows for us to have, and then also to have perspective before we try to figure out the problems. And so hopefully we experience that today with this special panel that we have. So I'm going to pray, and then we're going to jump into this. Jesus, thank you for this time. And Lord, we know that you want to speak into our culture, you want to speak into our churches, and you want to speak actually into our hearts during times like this. And this whole year has been tumultuous. This whole year there's been so much instability, Lord. And this is the perfect time for us to not just to look to each other, but to look to you. You have the answers. Lord, you have the power. and you have the heart that we need. That's what we need. We need your heart in this, God. So give us wisdom, give us the ability to hear, give us the ability to laugh, to share, to understand. And God, we just pray what happens here would just reverberate throughout our church, into our community, and into others' lives. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Well, I'm excited about this. We have, I think there's going to be a lot of diverse experience, opinions. Some of us know each other. Some of us are just getting to know each other. And so it's kind of cool. And so I want to quickly introduce everybody. And then the first thing we're going to do is kind of, obviously today's really going to be focused on certain topics, right, that are happening in our culture, that are bubbling up, that I think the church should address, that God has created us to address and be on the forefront of. And so it's going to be everything from racial interaction to racial disparity to policing to all, even the kind of buzzwords that are out there that we'll be talking about, defining, giving our perspective on, things like that. But before we do that, let me just kind of go around and have everybody meet each other. To my left here, this is Byron. And Byron, we've known each other for a while. When I was at another church, Cross Point Church, that you're still at. In fact, you are involved in the youth ministry there?
Yes.
All right.
Have the sophomore boys this year, so yeah, we're running strong, keeping them in the right path. So yeah.
I should pray again for you.
Get your hands up. Absolutely.
Yeah. Byron is a father of two. Been married for
23 and some change.
There we go. And
that rolled off your tongue smooth.
Yeah, is a man who's seen a lot, because were you born in the South?
Born in Louisiana, raised in Mississippi.
And then West Coast for a while?
West Coast, Marine Corps came out here, stayed, married a beautiful, gorgeous white female, had some little mixed half-calf kids.
Which nobody wants to admit.
Oh yeah,
everyone's like, those are the beautiful kids.
Half-calf, I know. Yeah, you know.
Sorry, my kids they don't get that, but I love you guys. I love Amy. Right? Beautiful, but man.
So yeah, that's kind of the story. Yeah, you know, born in the South, raised in the South, moved out here, Marine Corps, and been out here living ever since.
Seen a lot, so we're glad that you're here. We'll keep going down. Brian, the other Brian, is here with us, and Brian is an elder at our church, Access Church. We've known each other for a long time. He has a background that's going to give us a different perspective too, in law enforcement, that he used to work for. Now he is. You make trees beautiful, right? You probably do more than that, but that doesn't sound manly. But I mean, what do you do now?
I'm a consultant for a company that's based out of the Midwest, and I cover West Coast, California, Arizona, Nevada, and partner and help large and national landscape companies and tree care companies beautify the commercial landscapes.
Oh, nice.
And he's busy. He's always traveling. Father of three, been married for
15 years.
15 years. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So we're glad.
Short 15 years.
Yeah, it's gone by
Get that,
quick.
Lindsay?
Get by quick. To his left is Jose. Jose also is an elder at our church, father of three, married for
7 years.
Yeah, very nice. And so he is he's probably one of the smarter guys around here. I'm sorry, guys, but and man, but he's got a theology degree, and then also he's working on a CPA, and so he's a busy man. And then where do you work?
I work for the Department of the Navy. Right now I'm at a small installation in Norco, or just north of Corona. It's accounting work in the accounting department.
Awesome.
Yep.
So
Spec ops in the accounting department.
Exactly.
So we got a lot of military influence here, specifically the Department of Defense. To my right, this is Kathy. And Kathy, also, for how long you been at the Department of Defense?
Over 16 years.
16 years, lots of experience there.
Lots of experience.
Busy, 4 kids.
Yeah.
And what's the range of that? Are they?
Well, I have 2 adult kids, and then all of them are adult now, but this is my baby.
All right.
This is my baby sitting to me.
Yeah.
22-year-old baby.
Yeah. It never changes. Sorry, Jamal. It never changes.
I know.
It never.
Yeah, never changes. Yeah.
Because of where you guys live, two churches that are involved in the Bridge and the Rock Church in Temecula, and so we're glad you're here to get your perspective. And again, we're all with all the churches, we're one big family. So, and then again, to her right, this is Jamal, baby of the family, but a young man who's a busy college student.
Yes, sir.
And is it first year you're
I'm going into my junior year.
going into your junior year, right on? And do you already know what your major is going to be?
Business.
Business. All right. Very cool. Jamal also works for the
City of El Segundo.
Okay.
Rec and Parks. So.
The Rec and Parks.
Yes, sir.
Right on. And so we're glad that you're joining us also. And then my name's Brian, pastor at Access Church, and been married for 22 years to Christine, 2 kids. And so, yeah, it's an exciting life, busy life, and looking to jump into this. First thing we're going to do is to get to know each other, and especially within just kind of our influences when it comes to these topics of today, as far as just the family we grew up in, and then our experiences that we had. What kind of shapes us today when it comes to like racial diversity or just racial interactions, policing, kind of these topics. There might be other ones that you guys are even thinking of that we've experienced, but just what's that been like? And so, Jamal, if you wouldn't mind, we'll kind of start with you. We'll just kind of go around here and kind of just hear our experiences. And so we've already spoken last week. We got to know each other, which I thought was going to be a short conversation. It was super enjoyable. I couldn't wait to get you here, but it'd be great to hear again just a little bit about how you've grown up and what shaped you.
Okay, so I grew up in a military family. My dad served in the military and my mom works for the military. So upbringing, always be respectful to your elders, all that good stuff, you know. Do good in school, keep your grades up, play sports, date, but be responsible while dating.
well done, man. We're thrown in there.
And so yeah, that's pretty much just my upbringing. Just always be respectful is the main thing that's been installed in me.
Yeah. One of the things that I've heard is that, especially within the Black community, is growing up what you might be taught about. Hey, as you get older, when you interact with police officers, things like that. And again, I'm saying I've heard this from just a variety of people. And then some people, it's different how they're taught in that. And then just even your interaction as far as, depending on where you grew up, were you the minority, the majority, was it mixed? How was it growing up as far as just racial disparity? What was that like interacting with different races? And then with specifically the police, your views as you've grown up?
So growing up, I was always the minority. So no matter where I went, I was probably the only Black person in my class. I know it really started to hit me, or I really started to see it more when I got here in El Segundo in 5th grade, where I was the only African American pretty much like in my class. I think there was only 4 of us in like the 5th grade class. And so I always had to try to make friends and try to fit in because I was always the one out, but I do play sports, so that also helped me with my outlet of getting to know people and them also getting to know me better. But so that's pretty much that for that part. But dealing with the police, you know, I'm always taught, like by my father especially, that to always correspond and like just work with them and don't give them any reason to think that you're doing something else. And if you have to reach for something, you explain to them where your phone, your wallet, and everything is at before you even reach for it. Always have hands visible, present, just so they don't have any reason to think otherwise of the
Escalate
situation.
it or go further,
situation. Yeah. Always keep your voice level, no matter what they do, even if they try to throw you around. First, you just stay calm as possible because they're just looking to try to incite you and get you started.
Have you had any experiences?
I have. When I was, I want to say, a freshman in high school,
Yeah.
I was standing outside my house and a neighbor had called the cops on us, my brother and I, and like some of our friends that were African American in the city of El Segundo. And I guess they thought we were doing something we weren't supposed to be doing. And we had 4 cop cars pull up. We had 2 and they just like barricaded us and blocked us and put the lights on us so we couldn't see anything. Walked up to us, told us to put our hands on our head. Of course we did it, and then they pushed us up against the hood and started patting us down just for standing outside our own house. And so it was one of those situations where I had never experienced that before, and so when I experienced it, of course I was shaking. I was like, "Oh snap!" Like this, like I don't know what to do. Like I'm just gonna stay here and just stay as calm as possible. And my brother, he's telling me, he was like, "You're all right, Jamal. Like you're okay. Like just relax." And so having him definitely there by my side helped with the situation, because I don't know how else I would have reacted. And then also my father telling us like how to handle those type of situations just was also in the back of my mind too. So
That training was huge then, as far as your dad being like, this is how it is.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What about growing up as far as just like the reality? And some people are different as far as just like, you're a minority when you're walking into a certain situation, as far as how that affects behavior or interaction, or did you experience anything where it's like, man, I'm definitely getting singled out because of my skin color?
If I walk down the street and there's an elderly white woman, I'll just say that, for example, she'll clench her purse or walk the opposite direction, and I'll look at her like, I'm not gonna hurt you or anything. I always walk around with a smile on my face, like, if you guys can't tell, but it's something that I do. Like, I'm just a happy person. I walk around, smile. I'll speak to anybody and everybody, like, so I'm not disrespectful in any type of way. But when I see it, it's like,
right away.
Yeah, like,
Right away, yeah.
And then it's frustrating at times too, because I will also hold doors for people when they walk in, and they won't say anything to me or say thank you, and it's like the door just happened to be open by itself. So, but yeah, definitely, it's been tough. I've had to bite my tongue a couple times in situations where I wanted to say something where I was like, can't do it. I know I'll get in trouble for it.
Okay.
So I just had to like swallow it and keep on walking.
Yeah. So everybody thinks everything's okay, but you've walked away and there's something going on
Yes,
inside. Yeah. Appreciate you sharing. We're gonna hear more. Kathy, what about for you as far as just you growing up and how it shaped you within your family, and then your experiences growing up?
I grew up in Alabama, so I was born in Chicago. And by the time we were 3, when my father died, we moved to Alabama. So we were living with my grandparents in Auburn, Alabama. And so it was in the 60s.
Mm.
We were the first integrated class in 1970 to start from the 1st grade to the 12th grade. So we had what we call a track system. The whites lived on one side of the track, and the blacks lived on the other side of the track. So it was like you didn't go across that track unless you knew if you went across the track there was going to be problems.
Yeah.
But anybody from that side of the track was more than welcome to come into our neighborhood, and there were no consequences and no trouble.
Mm.
So, but I saw racial injustice, just discrimination out of the world. And my uncle was killed by the KKK, and he was like the only father figure that I knew. So at 5 years of age, we moved to Alabama when I was 3, and by the time I was 5, my uncle had been shot 3 times in the back of his head and his back and killed by the KKK. And I can remember vividly when the police officers came to the house and he said, your son's not coming home tonight, so he's dead. So nonchalant, like it was just nothing to it. Like, he's dead, there's not gonna be an investigation, so I'm just letting you know you can come down tomorrow or view the body or whatever. And it was like, wow. At 5, that kind of shaped my worldview, like thinking, this is not a really safe place to live. I'm afraid, I'm fearful. And that fear permeated me. It kept me from engaging in a lot of different other activities because I was so fearful and scared. And I think that's kind of like what we're feeling now, like people are getting scared and fearful. And, it was horrific. And I just saw my whole family fall apart during that time because he was like the breadwinner of the family. And so he had 8 kids, and those 8 kids had to go live separately in different places. And so it's just, and I could tell you numerous stories like that happened in that era, that period. Then I can also tell you numerous stories of where there was good things, because the kids behind the scene, we were going to school and we were making it work.
Right.
And then the older people, they were like trying to hold us down. And it's kind of like what you're seeing now with the rise. These younger people are like making it happen.
Yeah.
They're changing and shaping reality, and but then it was very scary, So when we was at school, that was our safe haven. We were like all together and trying to make it work. Despite what was going on behind the scenes, so. But my mom was like a rock. She was like, you will not discriminate. She was a Christian. She was like, you will not dislike somebody because of the color of their skin or what they look like, or you better have a darn good reason why you don't like somebody. Or you gotta get it. So I was like, whoa. Okay, so I'm getting it from both ends. So my mom was a rock. She was solid. She was like, no, and that's how I raised my kids. Like that. Like, you better not dislike someone because of the color of their skin. You need to
Was it hard
be
for
broader
you?
than that.
Was it hard for you to share though your experiences, or is it one of those things of I'm gonna hold off in sharing so I don't I don't know, how do you handle that as a parent as far as the atrocities? There's atrocities today, but I feel like there's a different level of atrocities for anyone that lived through the civil rights movement. And I think what we forget sometimes is, if I'm honest, there's probably some people like, come on, let's just get over it. Like that was 50, 60 years ago. And what we forget is, wait a second, there's still, for young people today, that's their parents or grandparents. So it's not like, oh, the stories are from yesteryear. It's like they're telling. And so even within progress, there's still stories and interaction, and then there's reminders that have to be difficult. What was that like for you sharing with your kids as a parent? As far as, did you struggle with that, or was it kind of like, I gotta share with you where I've come from?
Their dad is so good. My husband is so good. He's awesome in that category, so I really don't have to do that, because he's not only military, he's also a cop too. So that was his job, security forces, when he was serving in the military. So he handles those conversations a lot better than I do. So he just sits them down, and being that they're young men, it is much easier for him to talk to them. And so I'm so glad that we've been married like 100 years. Just put it like that. We've gone through the wires, we've gone through the storm, so we've been married 100 years.
But you're on the same page.
And we're still on the same page with how we were. That was one of the things that God blessed us with, being on the same page with our parenting skills. And you can tell that by the fruit of what we put out with our young men and our young women. We have one girl, and she's just,
Well connected.
Very well protected. You better know it. But she's our little princess. She's next to the oldest, but she's still my little princess. But he's just so good with handling those difficult conversations, with letting them know like the truth, and not sugarcoating the truth, but letting them know the truth, but still making them have their dignity and their self-esteem and all intact at one time. So he's really great at that, isn't he?
Definitely.
Yeah, he is.
My experience has been really interesting as far as, because I've had 3 dads. So I had these periods where, and most of the time, I've been on the very much of the lower socioeconomic spectrum, and especially when my mom was single. And so for me, it's been interesting as far as being in the majority and then being the minority. As far as like you, I was really shaped in junior high and high school, where I was a handful of white kids in South Bakersfield. And so that was eye-opening as far as very aware of my whiteness. That was pointed out, and I played sports too, and it's not popular, at least back then, to be white and play basketball, and I ran track, which I got made fun of, just because it was, at least in South Vegas, it was like, what are you doing out here, kind of a thing. But you kind of just that balance of kind of just dealt with it, and you tried to overcome. I don't know about for you, Jamal, but sports helped me to overcome some of those things, so I didn't get harassed as much. So sports was my, like, I better do good, because that's my in to be in this community. It was, I was sharing with Jamal when we were talking. It's so weird how you don't realize, and looking back, how much I wanted to be like the culture around me. So back then, it was the 80s, and when I had hair, we'd feather our hair. Feathering was cool. And me and another friend that we were tight, but this is back in the 80s now. So Jerry curls and wet, right? You're talking wet was in. Okay, so we all listen to rap. My friend, he's like, I'm gonna do something. Like, what are you gonna do? He's like, I'm gonna feather the front and Jerry curl the back.
Oh no.
So let me just tell you this. This is the pathway he went. Okay. My friend got shot at a party later on, a couple years later. Whoa. So that's the neighborhood, but that's the neighborhood we grew in. But it was that pressure that we didn't realize at the time. And I didn't realize that because you're a kid and you're just so, but you didn't realize like that really affects you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Now the beauty for me though is that I had some amazing experiences with Hispanic families and Black families where they literally protected me and allowed me in. And where I saw racism the most, first of all, with police, I can't say I saw as far as I've been in the back of a cop car a couple times. I've been pulled over a couple times just for driving in the wrong, like in Escondido. This is my early 20s, and I was just driving too slow. Cop pulled me over, no reason, and what are you doing here? Where are you going? What's your address? Why are you here? And so I've had these experiences, but it hasn't been elevated. Like, you share what you shared, and I'm like, whew, that's like a whole nother, like, no questions. It was get out of the car, So there's these levels to the game that I feel like. What was interesting for me is how the totem pole is so in South Bakersfield, it was Hispanics and lighter skinned Blacks kind of ruled the roost. And then it was white. And then who got made fun of the most is we had government housing. And so I'm talking fresh off the boat from Africa, darker skin, they got made fun of the most and they got beat up the most. So it's really interesting when it's like, I just saw where it's just like sin just messes up all of us. And you always look for someone to pick on. And it was like I was the white kid, but I knew I was in the pecking order that I didn't get beat up as much as these kids did. They got made fun of so much. So that was my experience that really shaped me. And then with police officers being kind of the norm, they actually did not like coming into our neighborhood. So I also knew that the calls because of the violence too. So that's kind of what shaped me when I look at this issue today. Byron?
Crazy. For me, born in Louisiana, raised in Mississippi, racism was in your face. Racism was you knew who liked you, you knew who didn't like you. You knew what neighborhoods to go to, where to hang out. You knew you couldn't go, hunting on this person's land because you might get shot.
Yeah.
Like you just knew that.
So it was out there.
It was like, clearly out there. Like there was no. Yeah. So kind of like you, I was a 70s baby, raised in the 80s. So I think I kind of came up, it's Kathy, right? Mm-hmm. Kathy. So it was for me, it was almost like the transition age era where, my parents have lived at, segregated, high schools and that whole life, and they kind of went through that. And we as kids came through a time frame where it was, I think I talked to you, we had a Black prom, we had a white prom. We had a white female, white male homecoming queen. We had a white, black male, black female homecoming. I mean, so everything was split down the middle, and it was the norm.
Yeah.
And we didn't know any better. But we would be sitting in class and be like, dude, why don't we do a prom together, bro? And they'd be like, that's a good idea.
So you talk about it.
Oh, we as a group of kids that's growing up, we talked about that because, but we were like, dude, our grandparents are not gonna let this crap fly. Like, there's no way in the world they're gonna let this go down. But we had those conversations, and we were aware of it, and it was clearly in your face. You knew where to go. You knew where not to go. You knew you couldn't go to that swimming pool. You knew you wasn't allowed. And the flip side of it, there were some communities that the white friends of ours knew they couldn't come into. Like, bro, you can't come. Like I think it's Boys in the Hood, the movie. Like, bro, you can't. Why are you here after 9 o'clock at night? You just can't be here, bro. You got to go. I'm sorry. Like, it just doesn't work like that. but that was kind of mine early on. Wholesome Christian family. You know, grandparents. You know, grandfather was a deacon. You know, grandmother was the missionary, and this is the by law. You know, you're gonna live, and discrimination is not part of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you need to know a person. You need to meet a person. You need to know who they are, what they're about, before you pick any sides on anything. This person needs to do something specific before you call this person out on anything. So that was kind of it. As far as cops, I've had a few issues, but I guess for me, I always looked at, what was your last call? Where did he just come from before he pulled me over? Did he just pull over a bunch of thugged out kids from the projects who was throwing up gang signs, and then I caught the aftermath of it? So you giving me attitude? You're not really giving me attitude. You might be upset with your wife. You might be upset with your kids that's failing school, that you got a problem with. You might not really be mad with me. So that was always my take, and I think that's just the way my parents and just life and the Marine Corps and all that. So I had a situation in Vegas. I just moved up there working, doing a contracting gig for a couple months for AT&T, Nortel Networks, AT&T Wireless. And cop pulls me over, and I'm like, dude, what was I doing? I got on shorts, tank top, hoodie open, I'm listening to music, you know, eating fries. And he was like, you know, you fit the description of a vehicle, you know, of somebody that we're looking for. And I'm like, yeah, right, really? But I didn't give him that attitude. Yes, sir, absolutely. No, sir. Okay. Pull me over in front of a 7-Eleven, park, cars are coming, people coming outside. This was before cell phones, so there was no video. You know, you're just like embarrassed. He gets you out of the car, pats you down. You got anything in the vehicle? No, sir. You know, they go through the whole vehicle. He puts me back in. All right, you know, my sergeant or whatever is coming to check you out. I'm like, okay. And I sit there for 45 minutes, mad. I'm talking about pissed. And I'm like, so another cop comes up, they talk. The guy who pulled me over leaves. The other cop who showed up leaves. And then the sergeant or whatever comes over to my vehicle and was like, hey, here's your ID back. Sorry about everything. Have a good day. I'm like, whoa. Hold up. We got a problem. You need to explain this to me. Bro, my fries are closed. I can't eat my burger. Like I got cop friends, you know, CHP, San Diego PD. Yeah. And I got the answer. It was like, you know, you fit the description of somebody that we were looking for. Black male, same size. And I'm like,
my hair's feathered.
Right. My hair's feathered.
I shouldn't have shared that story. Right. I should not have shared that story.
And I'm like, really? Like, I was frustrated. I was mad. But I was like, all right, you know, it is what it is. Like, I'm assuming you have a job to do. You have something that you gotta, you know, and you move past it. You're like, you know what? All right, I'm done with it. But that was kind of me in a nutshell on that topic. So yeah.
Brian, what about for you?
I'm just enjoying hearing all this. I mean, it's an eye opener. I'm just sitting here, just shaking my head. And I'm just, you know, coming into this, as we talked before, I was nervous. I couldn't be happier that I did this just by hearing these first three stories. Like, whoa, you know, we all have our stories. I was raised by a colonel in the Marine Corps. I was raised by the great Santini. And I didn't get away with a thing. Nothing. I tried. Believe me, I tried. Even when he was deployed, you know, he gave mom the reins, like, crack of the whip if you need to. Well, my kids are not getting out of line. I got out of line. And I think that's really what made me today. I grew up very privileged, you know, from growing up in San Diego County. Dad got orders to Okinawa, so we went accompanied. And we lived on base, and you know, you saw the authority. So it was like I can't get away with anything. Not that I wanted to, but there was that sin in me. There was that rebellion in me, as we all grew up with. And then from there, we moved to Norfolk, actually Virginia Beach, right there on the border. And that was the first time I was introduced with mixed race, because growing up in in San Diego or San Marcos.
Back at that time, there was
Oh,
it, yeah.
it was mostly all white folks.
Yeah.
And there was some Hispanics,
Mhm.
but I was too young. I didn't,
Yeah.
paid no mind. And when we lived in Okinawa, we lived off base for a period of time.
Mm.
So I got very immersed into the Japanese culture real quick.
Right.
And it was all about ultimate respect. And so at a very young age, I was being immersed into different cultures. Come now to back out into Virginia, I was immersed into multiple cultures, with the black culture community,
Yep.
and then ours. And I've always had a way of being friends with everybody. I can talk to anybody. I don't care who you are. I'll strike up a conversation with you. And I think from a young age, I've always tried to find the good in people. I don't know if that was just my dad putting that in me or my Irish Catholic mother who just said, always find the best in people. Because if you do that, they'll find the best in you in return. And that's how the relationships start. So I always try to just make people feel important. From there, we moved back here. And that's when I kind of got into my rebellion a little bit. Continued to grow up in the Catholic Church, and hung around a lot of my dad's workmates' families. One of his best friends, John Moffat, black man, and he was a major. No, he was a lieutenant colonel. My dad was a major, and his kids were just as fun as any of my other white friends. And this is going to sound bad. And this is something Brian and I talked about. And even during this time, I didn't see color. I saw a person who had a heart that pumped red. We put pants on the same way, one leg at a time. And so my entire life, I've lived like that. My mother passed away in 2006, and my dad remarried a Hispanic woman. My brother-in-law is gay, married to an Indian, a man cares
You
for
got everything
India.
in your family.
My whole life has been.
We are the world in your family.
And so we've raised my kids around that now, and I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I've been in different communities my whole life. Digressing back to growing up, a little rebellious and stuff like that, I learned to respect cops. Because the cops back in San Marcos of the day, there was a motor officer, Jackson, and he pulled you over. If you got pulled over, you were getting read the Right Act. But there was a common understanding. If it was yes sir, no sir, kind of like what you were talking about, Jamal, hands where you can see them, and if you did something wrong, you did something wrong, and you were going to be held accountable for it. So from an early age, from my father, from the colonel, you're held accountable. There's consequences, some good, some bad. And there was tickets that I had gotten from Deputy Jackson, just the way it was.
You'll never forget his name.
No, I won't.
Jackson.
No, I won't. So bad interactions with cops? No, that we didn't. There weren't many cops in San Marcos, so we just learned how to drive fast and get away.
Yeah.
Growing up,
The Dukes of Hazzard.
Furthermore, I became a police officer. I would think I was 23.
Yeah.
It was either go in the Marine Corps. Mom said don't because it was 89, 90. That's when, Desert Storm was going on. So I took the path to become a police officer. Did that for about 18 years. I had a very good time doing that.
Mm.
I never, in all my dealings with people, it was be kind to them. Love them. They have a heart. Were there times when I was jaded? Yeah, there was. Two very close friends killed in the line of duty. One by a Hispanic male and the other by a Samoan. And it was about that time when you and I met. Yeah. And I was very jaded. Mm-hmm. Very. If I think back about it, as I'm forced to think back about it now, was there racist thoughts? No, there wasn't. Was I jaded because of who they were and how they lived their lifestyles? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but I always had a way of getting along with anybody, whether you were part of the Black community, Hispanic community, Samoan community, Asian community. I just enjoyed people, so I didn't put them, compartmentalize people or anything like that. You know, you love me, I love you, I love you, you love me, and that's the way I was raised. The world goes round.
We're going to talk a little bit more about policing. That's why I'm glad you're here, because I think almost all the issues we're going to talk about, there's a complexity there. And anyone that tries to get a blanket statement or answer, like, there's probably more nuance, but we'll talk a little bit more about that because I think it's relevant. Jose, some people might be like, why is Jose here? This is a black-white issue.
Just the Mexican that got thrown in the pot.
Token Mexican, and no. For me, it's interesting. Again, living in California, I saw more racist jokes especially when I was younger, towards Hispanics. I had friends that would wake up, work in the fields, come to school before like that. So this is Central California, whole different culture. But I saw they shouldn't have been working. I saw how they were treated. I saw how people viewed them. So I saw much more. And in South Bakersfield, I was a minority, so I didn't see some of these issues that we're talking about. So curious for you, as far as just growing up and then your experiences, if they're different or if they're just a little bit the same.
I think for me, it was more when I was 7th grade, we moved up to Central California, to Modesto.
I'm sorry you did that.
And,
I'm sorry.
And it wasn't necessarily racism, but it's always you stuck to your race.
Yes.
So your friends who are same race, even though I may talk to a black classmate, I'm not going to hang out with him after school. You know what I mean? It's always seemed it was segregated by whites hang out with whites, yeah.
Yes.
Blacks with blacks and Mexicans with Mexicans, and there was a lot of racist jokes, towards all the races, but it wasn't.
It was equal opportunity.
Yeah,
Okay.
No one got away with it. I think it was just my worldview was my Hispanic culture, of obviously we weren't as wealthy. We were a working class. A lot of my friends' parents did work in the fields. They will get taken on the weekends.
Yep.
Especially you knew that the season when it was time to pick peaches because they would get, you will go or so it's. I think it wasn't until I joined the Marine Corps where my worldview got shattered. I'm gonna say shattered because I got thrown into a melting pot of people, and it was very interesting to learn. It was very different talking to a black from California and talking to a black person from the Midwest or from the South. Completely
Or
different
Chicago
lives.
or New York.
Yes.
So it's
geographically our nation's interesting.
Right.
it's intense how the context of where you grew up in the geographic area is your worldview.
Right.
And I think experiencing going into combat with people of different races really changed my view on the human being. And I can say now, some of my best friends are black. One of my best friends from Alabama, and I love that guy to death. I just have good friends that are gingers, So it's I wish that we, as a culture, we will be able to learn from other people, and unfortunately for me, it happened at a way later age, but I'm fortunate that it did happen.
That's where that exposure and I'm just big on relationships change everything. Once you get in a relationship and all of a sudden human to human, and then you can enjoy different cultures, different, ways that people do things, view things, express things. Like when I go as a Christian, when I go to Africa, one thing I like about it is the way they worship there, completely different, right? And so for me, it's like I learned to become more expressive, but I felt weird.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks out there, I'm feeling more expressive, but then I come back, it's like, why are you so expressive? Then I go back to, it's like, and we make fun of the black-white thing.
Right,
and there's a caricature within the, the black church, how long they go, or how vibrant they are. But there's probably some of that too, where it's like, culture's like, yeah, we like that. That was our, community, that was our family. Right. And so we learn, it's like, ooh, I like that. I want to take that from there. And so relationships are so important, even joking. It's just like everything's offensive when we don't know each other. But then when we're with our friends, I remember, it's just like, and especially if it was of different races, but we all knew each other, we don't say whatever we wanted. But then all of a sudden you get out and everybody's different. So, so where are we at with our culture today, the things we're seeing? And I don't know if we're seeing the same things. Maybe we listen to different news. Maybe it's the same. Different friends of what we want to talk about, our different family members. I don't know. But I'm curious, what's on our heart as far as what burdens us for what we're seeing today from whether it's police interactions, whether it's protests, or whether it's the rioting, whether it's just the graphic images. And the things we're seeing, some graphic images, and it's coming out now. News media coming out with all kinds of different things. What do we feel like are the things that are stirring up in us?
Fear, shame, anger, lack of hope. It'd be if you're asking for things that are just popping off.
Yeah.
My heart, my mind. Yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah.
I'm scared I got 3 kids. You got 4. You got one just getting ready to just pop right into corporate America potentially. The thought of that scares me.
What is it that scares you? What's the thought? Because whenever we have emotion, there's a thought that generates that emotion, right? What's the thought that generates that emotion as far as what makes you fearful?
Lacking control of how we normally live life. It's different these days. I don't think people are looking at, for me, I don't think people are looking at one another of how can I make that person feel most important today? It's absent. It's absent and sad, and it frustrates me, and I think parts of me it angers me. Lindsay and I talk about this a lot. Yeah. And since we've come to know Christ, it's like that's what we're called to do. That's what God calls us to do, is to find the best in people, to love them, and to let them know that they are loved, and it's lacking today. And I think
we're inundated with it.
Yeah,
we're being inundated with it. Right
and as much as we want to,
yeah.
If I come across a TV, not in my house that has the news on, because we just don't watch it. It's just too sad, or something that on the news. I just shake my head, and that's a shame. That's a shame.
Thanks for joining us. For more resources, to get involved, or to invest in the ministries at Access Church, visit gotoaccesschurch.com. Take care.